Good evening, 5th grade. Welcome to Lesson 5-7, Estimating and Dividing with Greater Numbers. Your learning goal for this evening is to solve division problems, 4-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers, including how to find the remainder. Let's get started. The first thing you need to do is to take these 4 learning goals and write those into your math spiral. Your first learning goal for this evening is to divide 4-digit quotients by 2-digit divisors with an estimate first. So the first thing you're going to do tonight is to estimate before you divide. Your second learning goal is to divide 4-digit quotients by 2-digit divisors. Your next learning goal is to subtract carefully, and finally, check your work. Take a moment and write those learning goals into your spiral. Pause the video, and when you're finished, please start again. Alright, let's look at our first example. I've given you in here a reminder of what your 4 steps to division are. Divide, subtract, or divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. And I've got those on each of the screens so that you don't forget. If you can take the time, if you keep forgetting, if you take the time to write those 4 steps of division on your paper before you start your division problems, it'll really help you. And you can do those every single time until you have those memorized. So let's take a minute and let's look at our first example. We're going to estimate first, and then we're going to divide. So let's get started. Let me get my pen ready. All right, so let's look first at this. We want to look at compatible numbers. So if you look at 12 and you look at 1,455, what is a compatible number first for 12? Well, that's easy enough because the closest that it is to is 10. So we're going to estimate first. So there is 10, and we are going to divide 10 into whatever the compatible number is for 1,455. The closest thing it can get to, if you look at this, you're going to want to look at those first 2 numbers to find your compatible number. And we're going to estimate that to 15. So we're going to make this 1,500 to complete our estimate. Remember, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So you take 10. It cannot divide into 1, so nothing is going to go above the 1 on this dividing line. So then you look at 15. Can 10 divide into 15? And it can. 10 divides into 15 one time. So above the 5, you're going to place your 1. Next step is to multiply. 10 times 1 is 10. Next step, subtract. So you're going to subtract 10 from 15. You're going to get 5. Then bring down. So you're going to bring down your 0. You start all over again. 10 divides into 50. How many times? That goes up above the 0 that you just brought down. 10 times 5 is 50. Subtract that, you end up with 0. You've got 1 number left to bring down. And my numbers keep disappearing, I don't know why. And 10 divides into 0, 0 times. So your estimate here is 150. Now let's do our actual solving of this division problem and see how close we are. So now let's divide 12 into 1,455. Same steps. 12 can't divide into 1, so nothing is going to go above the line on the 1. It can divide into 14. 12 can divide into 14 one time. So you place the 1 above the dividing line. Your next step is to multiply. 12 times 1 is 12. We'll now subtract that from 14. 14 minus 4 minus 2 is 2. 1 minus 1 is nothing. We don't need to write anything over there. So we've got 2. We'll bring down our 5. I do not know why this is happening. 12 can divide into 25 2 times. The 2 is going to go above the 5 because that's the number that we brought down. Multiply. 12 times 2 is 24. We're going to subtract 24. We'll get a 1. Next step is to bring down. How many times can 12 divide into 15? 12 can go into 15 one time. 12 times 1 is 12. We'll subtract that from the 15, and we have 3 left over. There's nothing left to bring down, so we have a remainder of 3. So our actual answer is 121, remainder 3. Our estimate was 150. The reason that our estimate is more than our actual answer is because if you notice, we came up with a compatible number that was larger than the actual number we divided by. That's how you solve estimating. Remember, an estimate is just a number that gets you close to the actual answer. All right, let's do another one. All right, your first practice problem tonight is 1,788 divided by 18. I want you to take the time to show an estimate, and then I want you to take the time to do the division problem. Please take the time to do both, and then we'll practice it together. Pause the video, do the practice, and then we'll do it together. All right, for your estimate, did you try 1,700 divided by 17 equals 100? And for your actual answer, did you get 98 remainder 14? Let's see how we could do that. If you estimated here, and if you looked for compatible numbers, 18 can estimate to 17. And the reason that you want to do that is because if you look at the first two numbers of 1,778, 17 easily divides into 17. So you would want to choose 17 as your compatible number, and 1,700 is your compatible number for 1,778. Therefore, 17 divides into 17 one time. When you subtract that, you have 2 zeros left to bring down. All you have to do is place those above the line, and that's your estimate. Now let's see how we actually subtract 18 into 1,778. All right, let's look at this together. 18 cannot divide into 1. Nothing goes above the 1. 18 cannot divide into 17, so nothing's going to go above the 7. But we can take 18 into 177. We already know, because we've got our answer there, 18 times 9. So over here in my scrap paper, I'm going to multiply 18 times 9. I know that 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 7 is 16. So when I do that on my scrap paper, I can then bring 162 over here to subtract, because that's my next step. 7 minus 2 is 5. 7 minus 6 is 1. I've got one more number left to bring down, and that is 8. Then I've got 18 divides into 158. My number here is 8. Again, over here on the side, I'm going to use my scrap paper and multiply 18 times 9. If I didn't want to take the time to multiply it, I would know that 162 less 18 is going to be the same. Well, this should be times 8, because I'm going down one less number. So I can either just subtract 18 from that, or I could go ahead and I could multiply it. 8 times 8 is 64. Carry my 6. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 6 is 144. If I subtracted this, I would get the same thing. I'm going to borrow a 1 from the 6, and I'm going to give it to the 2. 12 minus 8 is 4. 5 minus 1 is 4, and bring down my 1. So now I know that 18 times 8 is 144. When I subtract that, 8 minus 4 is 4, 5 minus 4 is 1, and there is my remainder, 14. That actual answer is very close to my estimate. Let's do another practice problem. All right, here is your reminder over here of divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and your other practice problem, 4,032 divided by 22. Give me an estimate and then solve the problem. Pause the video and try it yourself in your notebook. When you're done, start the video again. All right, was your estimate 4,000 divided by 20 equals 200? Let's look and see how you could have done that. This is pretty easy if you look at this. All right, let's look at this together. 22 easily estimates to 20 because it's close to it. And then if you look at the first two numbers of 4,032, you would easily estimate 20 and 4,032 to 4,000, because you know that 20 can easily divide into 40 2 times. 20 goes into 40 twice, and when you get that, you've got 40. You have nothing left to bring down except 2 zeros, so you simply place those above the line, and that's your estimate. Now let's try the actual problem. So let's set up your actual division problem. 22 divided into 4,032. 22 does not divide into 4. Don't put anything above the 4. 22 does not divide into 40. Again, don't put anything. Well, it does divide into 40. It divides in there one time. So your 1 is going to go above your 0. So 1 times 22 is 22. Subtract that from your 40. You have to borrow from the 4. That becomes a 3. Put your 1 over the 0. 10 minus 2 is 8. 3 minus 2 is 1. You can't divide 22 into 18, so then your next step is to bring down your 3. You've got to keep your column straight in division so that you can divide carefully. So now you have 22 divided into 183. 22, what am I going to do? I know that it has to be a larger number because this is such a large number. So over to the side, and if I already didn't have my answer, I would do a guesstimate. But let's look at 22 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry a 1. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 1 is 7. I'm going to place my 1 above the line, above the 3, because that's what I brought down. I'm going to subtract 176. When I subtract, I need to borrow. My 8 becomes a 7, so that my 3 becomes 13, because I actually borrowed from the tens column. So 13 minus 6 is 7. I can now bring down my 2, and 22 into 72, I'll place my 3 above the line, above the 2, and on my scrap paper I'm going to take 22, going to multiply it by 3. 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 2 is 6, and I'm going to, this pen tonight is my magically disappearing pen for some reason. I'm going to subtract 66 from 72. I'm going to borrow, that becomes a 6, my 2 becomes a 12. 12 minus 6 is 6, and that becomes my remainder. And that, my friends, 183 remainder 6 matches. Again, close enough to my estimate to know that I was almost right on. All right, let's do this practice word problem. I want you to do it in your spiral, and when you are finished, I want you to unpause the video, and then we will do it together. Take the time to do it, and then we'll do it together. All right, let's look at this together. Hopefully you figured out what you didn't need. First of all, Megan has 4 weeks to do this. There are 7 days in a week. So 7 times 4 is 28 days. So she's got 28 days to read this book. So you're going to take 868, divide 28 into 868. Nothing can go into 8, so don't write above it. But into 86, you can divide 28. Hopefully on your scrap paper, you took 28 and you gave it a good guesstimate. I'm going to guess 3 because I know that if I triple 28, it's going to get me pretty close to 80. 3 times 8 is 24. Carry my 2. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. I'm taking it into 86, so above the 6, I'm going to place the 3. 28 times 3 then is 84. Going to subtract that. I know that I will get 2. Bring down my 8. I have 28 left. I know that 28 can divide into 28 one time. Subtract that. I have nothing left. So she needs to read 31 pages each day in order to get the book done. All right, hopefully you got that. Read through the challenge problem. Pause the video. Read through the challenge problem. Write the answers in your book. Bring it tomorrow and check it in class. Hopefully that you will do a really good job. Notice you need an estimate and an exact answer on this challenge problem. All right, let's finish up for tonight. Review your learning goals. Are there any learning goals written in your journal? I hope all of them. Do you have the practice problems written in your journal? Do you have the word problem written in your journal? The answer to your challenge problem that you're going to check in class tomorrow. You've completed lesson 5-7. I know it was a little bit long tonight. Sorry, I kind of talked slow, but I really want you to get these division problems down. Sleep well, have a good night, and I will see you in the morning.